welcome to today on Mystic Megan's site. I really am excited because I have the author of the new children's book, The Little Crab Finds a Friend. This is David Bensimon, and
Hello.
I am so excited to finally connect with you online. You found me on Instagram, and then since then I've started following your work, and I'm super interested in learning more about you, what inspired you, and really everything, just everything.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, I want to just first off by saying that your work is just an awesome rocket ship to astrology. Literally, if you haven't read her book, using the rocket ship as a vehicle to understand astrology just really resonated with me, and I could see as a child or if I was a parent how that would connect. So, first off, kudos to you and thank you so much. Yeah, very, very excited about the launch of The Little Crab Finds a Friend. It's been a long time coming, and finally the book is in physical form. It will be available Thursday on the 25th. So probably be post when you record or when you post this. But The Little Crab Finds a Friend is an astrology-based children's book for ages 3 to 6 and up, I would say. But that's kind of the general starting point. And it's about a lost little crab and his adventure through an astrological land to return back home. And really, this is a 12-book series, possibly a 13th book, even though there are only 12 signs. But right now, it's a 12-book series that we're planning, and this is book 1, and this is introducing the little crab and his home, and he's a little Cancer crab. He, like all of us, it's starting at the bottom of the chart, and then the book following this will be Aries, and then it'll go in zodiacal order. But I'm just really excited to bring astrology to children and to parents. And astrology is so much about understanding yourself, and I think really understanding that your chart is a guide to fully loving yourself and embracing who you are and fulfilling, I think, who you're meant to be in this lifetime. And I think when we understand our own astrology, it helps us really understand everyone's astrology, and just knowing as a kid, that you belong and that you are at home here. And the, understanding that we have, even if we don't have planets there, we have every sign. Everyone has every sign in their chart. So understanding that, everyone is a reflection of us, a reflection of different parts of ourselves. And I think just helping kids see the different parts of themselves and others, and recognizing those parts and not a judgmental sense, but in a kind of open, loving sense. And I guess knowing that we are not without anything, we're not lacking anything, and by meeting other people and exploring the different zodiac signs, we can kind of highlight those areas in ourselves that maybe we can't always see, or that maybe we can't always access, especially as kids. Just about making or helping kids feel more at home, and just more connected with themselves and others, and just create more self-love and understanding, and that then passing through to other people, and creating more understanding and love for other people we meet, especially those that we may see as very different than ourselves, and understanding that we're just highlighting and spotlighting different parts of ourselves through the zodiac and through astrology.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for all the kudos for my work.
Yes, I really it's just cool. Like, I love the creative presentation, and just it's exciting. It's just, your book flows really well, and it's exciting, and it's just neat to see people bring astrology out to parents, and to be so focused on creating a curriculum for parents to utilize this tool. And it's cool. I see it so clearly as far as the future, and just seeing astrology becoming just such a key part of helping our kids understand who they are, and really loving who they are. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love your book. Like, your book plays into a lot of sort of the stuff I want to be working with. I love that it provides for children in a way they can understand, an image, a whole story that can really like break down what does it mean to be a Cancer? Like, how does this work? I'm beyond excited to read the entire series when you write them all, because this is so cute. I mean, and this is the kind of practical sort of way I think that astrology's growth and parenting can really start to make a new, I kind of think like an emotional and visual language that can help us really expand what it means to like understand our children and to work with the different parts of who they are. I really loved how you said, we can learn about every sign. And I think that's something a lot of people don't understand when they're first coming into astrology. They're like, I am a Cancer, and not realizing that, every expression, every sign is within your zodiac
Mhm.
wheel, even if you don't have planets there. And it's
Mhm.
such a cool way to sort of expand our experience of the psychology of others. And yeah, I just love that. Um, so I'm really curious to know also about what was your background, like what first got you into astrology, and what's your sort of professional experience been like with astrology?
Yeah. So I wish I had like an exact pinpoint moment where I was like, yes, astrology, but just as like a teenager and young kid, just every time I would hear it, my ears would perk up and I would just say, it would just resonate. And I wouldn't like explore it much further, but I always be like, oh yes. Oh, that's interesting. And then it wasn't really until like my 20s where I really started to understand the depths of astrology and understand the full significance of the chart and how to break down the chart. And um, it's just, it was, you know, it was something that like you just instantly know you connect with. It's like I really feel like so many astrologers, it maybe is innate or it is just something that like once you discover it, once you recognize it out in the world, it's something that like unlocks. It's like a program that you had that was dormant, and then all of a sudden it just like uploads. You're like, oh, and I just loved the like that you could spend your lifetime digging into really one chart and just the like vastness that it offered and the like the learning opportunities that exploring a chart offered and just the I think not the validation but just the understanding of parts of myself that I had a really hard time accepting and loving and just really when I started to learn about it, like in my 20s, I think like most astrologers, it was like probably my Saturn return that I really dug in. And it just because I think you're looking for like a more detailed blueprint. Your Saturn return's like, okay, you need a better blueprint to build this life that you want to build. And I think that that's when I really started understanding the parts of myself that I had a harder time accepting or that were contradictory or when I had like the inner conflicts within that like seemed to not mesh up. And it just the more I explored it, the more I saw that this was kind of showing the full spectrum of who I am and of what lessons were learned from which experiences and kind of how those played out. And it was the most like thorough and connective guide I've ever had to fully understanding myself and just there's something about seeing the placements and just being able to see it that makes it tangible and makes it okay. I accept who I am. I accept these parts of myself, and there's so many different tools in this life that can bring those same results. But just astrology was one that just really tied it all together and just really piqued my curiosity and the idea of using it to help others just understand themselves, and whatever you want to take from astrology, you can. Uh, but just like as a basis for understanding, that was kind of my aim. And just if people want to explore it further, cool. And if they're like, okay, I got enough, I'm like, cool. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely can relate to a lot of what you're saying. It unlocks so much of ourselves and where we're going. And in some ways, I think the cool thing with parenting in astrology is that it almost does like take a little pressure off the parent. Sometimes we have this idea that we can force every child to be a certain way and or that it's all your responsibility, every single action and how the child's going to be raised. But they come here born with a unique blueprint. And learning to sort of honor the differences amongst children is something that I think is really cool for astrology to do. I mean, as a mom of 3 kids, I see it clearly. Like, you do the same things and they're different children. They're so different.
I'm so curious for you and your journey. Like, how did your relationship with astrology or perception of astrology change once you became a parent? And like, what depth did that offer? I just feel like having children and applying that like astrological filter to parenting just must have like deepened and changed your relationship with astrology.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely deepened it in a lot of ways. I think I've really learned and watched, as my children are growing, sort of their process through the chart. It's interesting also if you think of the chart and the wheels as like psychological development and their different stages. That's one way I've got more into like understanding the vibe, and also just even, simple things like, well, my daughter Hope, who is a Cancer, and seeing how that plays out in her Aries moon. I mean, you see this like really raw.
She is a Cancer sun, Aries moon.
Yes.
So do I. Wow.
Oh, really?
Sorry. I didn't mean, I just like get excited. I'm like,
yeah.
I feel you. It's like an ocean on fire, but there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so while she definitely has an emotional understanding and like a great way of connecting with others, she's very much a leader, and very much like the sports action kid. And so I love watching the interplay of these, being the one who cares about everyone's emotions, is everyone feeling okay, but yet is like super competitive and like snowboarder, crazy, active, like gives me a heart attack all the time. It's just so fascinating to watch. And then to see the differences between the kids. Like my son is a Capricorn, Virgo rising with moon in Sagittarius. And he's
Wow.
very serious, like super serious kid. Whatever, like, but he has these, because he's Sagittarius moon, it's like super interesting things he's into. And so he gets very passionate and organized and intense about whatever he's doing. Though, like, if it's Star Wars, we watch every movie, we get every Lego set.
We become scholars. We understand the philosophy of it. Yeah. This Sag moon's like, let's wax poetic on like the Force. And then like, yeah, that's so funny.
It's so like you see the really raw expression, I think, through children, which is so beautiful and fun to experience, really.
I really liked how you structured your book through the elements, because I think the elements is one of the best entry points to understanding astrology, because we all understand the qualities of the 4 elements. And so I love that that's how you kind of structured your book. It really just made it instantly accessible. And I just, again, like the elements to me are one of the most easy to grasp or just natural to grasp concepts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that the more I was trying to do it in like a light way without being like, this is, I don't know, a way that is accessible. I mean, that was the whole point of my book, trying to make it accessible to someone who knows nothing about astrology, but then provide like a gateway to go further. But yeah, the elements are the best way to really start. And if more people would like sort of start there, it could be really, I think, helpful in your learning, even though most people generally start from their sign, which is fine too. Like that's a gateway. But once you start to understand those different elements and how they play out, I mean, it just makes sense. Like we understand fire is like burning and energetic, and water, it's like you're in the ocean and you're swimming. And I always love like Cancer, I mean, the crab, obviously, but I just like the imagery of like the crab can go onto sand and go into the water.
Yeah.
And then Pisces, being the fish who's like in the water.
Yeah, in the depths. Like the like lesser known species that is like 1,000 feet deep.
Yeah. And so, and that's, I think, what's so cool about your book is providing the visual language in a way that children can really sort of grasp onto. And that, the illustrations, the story, it's all told in such a fun way. Like you don't even need to care anything about astrology to think this is a really cute book for kids. Like kids are going to love it. My kids, I read it to them and they were super into it. They loved it, especially Hope, because she's Cancer. So she loved that. And so I think that your work is such a great pathway, and there is like a rise now in astrology and parenting, which I didn't even really understand till I made this jump into professionally doing it. And as I've been seeing more, it's such an exciting time to be an astrologer who's into parenting.
Yeah.
And so the question I was wanting to ask you is, so like, why did you decide to go this way to write a children's book? What was your inspiration?
I think visualizing in my head, like I remember it was like after like a failed relationship. So I'm not like a parent, but I definitely am like very connected to my inner child. And I remember like a relationship ended and I was disappointed. And I remember just thinking like in my head, like of the person's like zodiac sun sign and my sun sign and the like representation of it and just how awkward this person was she was a Leo, and I was just thinking of like a lion and a crab interacting, and like how funny and different, and like how just like when you take the like archetypes of the different zodiac signs, imagine them all interacting, and I was like in Target, and I was like, I think this would be a really cool way to show astrology to children, and also maybe adults in the sense of like we're all like so different. We're trying to find commonality and connect to each other and points of interest. And so, but yet we're so different on the outside, but inside we all have these parts of ourselves. And sometimes we need these external connections with other people to unlock them. And I think that was kind of the impetus. And so I just started writing. I have a lot of cardinal placements, so I'm really great at starting things. Like Aries rising, Aries moon, Cancer sign, like a lot of cardinal energy. And so finishing things, that's totally a different story. Like without the help of like the different team members I have and people supporting me, I don't think I would ever finish anything. So I just started writing and started structuring. And I actually wrote like the outline of the whole 12-book series within the first year. I've been working on this for quite some time. And then I actually wrote book 1, 2, and 3 and was just on a roll. But really, it wasn't until I went to a kids' book conference and I sat down with the publisher and she completely didn't even know it was an astrology book. And that iteration, the astrology was really subtle. And really, you would have to already know astrology to recognize that, oh, this is a Cancer crab, and the moon is in reference to the sign that, or the planet that rules, or the luminary that rules Cancer. So she, was essentially like, this is just about a little crab leaving home. Like, there's so many books like this. And that was like a big epiphany and a big moment to me. And I was somewhat crushed because I was like, okay, I'm hiding the astrology. I'm hiding the ball. Like, I'm not making this an astrology book. Yeah, there's an astrological parenting guide, but it's not in the forefront. So that's where I really went back to the workshop and just revised it and really made astrology in the forefront. And I think that, you know, I don't know. That was like a big changeover. It's just really making astrology, making it impossible not to see this as an astrology based book. And I'm not sure. I think back, I'm like, was it like fear of like putting astrology in the forefront, or just, I think I really just in the beginning, maybe it was so story focused and just maybe still trying to grow as an astrologer that I didn't make it as prominent as it is in this iteration and the current iteration. So yeah, I think I like added 3 questions on your original question, but that was sort of the inspiration and impetus for it. And then it really evolved into really being just every rendition and draft was more astrology forward. So that's kind of what made it this book. Just, but yeah.
Love that. I mean, I think it's so cool to bring astrology like there and put it there so then we can start to hang on to these archetypes and like start picturing where is this, getting the language out there. So you associate the crab with Cancer. I mean, very clearly doing these things really does help children and parents grasp on to this language that we're trying to communicate, all of us astrologers, with the world, so that way we can really go deeper and
Yeah.
remembers, we understand. So I love the way it
Exactly.
is now. I mean, I really do.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
And
like my art illustrator and Dominique, who writes the astrological parenting guide, which will be in each book and correspond with the zodiac sign featured. They are just incredible. I mean, Angelica, the illustrator, just got it right away. I met her through a friend and started talking. And this is like the beginning of this idea. And just she loves all living beings, from like tiny insects to like the largest animal. And so she just, I really wanted to have an integrity with nature and like have it still be illustrated and to a degree cartoonish or to a degree like animated, but at the same time really have like the like capture the integrity of nature and just still have a whimsical style, but at the same time really like showcase the different archetypes in a way that was kind of connected to nature. So yeah, I feel really lucky that I fell into the team I did, because they definitely brought this book to life.
yeah, yeah, and Dominique the astrologer has like a really popular Facebook group, which is cool. I love that group. She's super active in there. And I on Astrology Hub, I've been listening to this what is it, Seeds of Light, and that's I've heard her on there a bunch, and she is great. Yeah,
Yeah, she
that's awesome.
she was excited. She's always really excited to find other astrologers focused on conscious parenting through astrology. So she was happy to discover you too.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you have an awesome team and that sort of support. So yeah, that's something I wanted to ask is how well you sort of alluded to that this was a very long process,
Yeah.
but how long was it?
Okay. So the inception of the idea was late 2013. And then I really like, I think 2014, 2015, I really was just in a writing cave and writing a lot for the book and creating. And, it takes a long time to figure out how you want to tell this message. I didn't plan on writing a rhyming children's book. And I was like, everyone's like, it's so cliche, don't do it. I really feel like your inspiration, like you kind of to go with that. This sounds maybe like very um, new agey or I don't know, but like it really is like you have to. There's certain things you're guided by, and I think there's certain things like, especially with creative expression, sometimes you just have to go with how this is meant to come out. And what was so cool is because I had been focused on writing screenplays prior to this, and this just came out with so much ease. Screenwriting had such a mathematical component for me and just was very like meticulous and deliberate. And this just flowed out the way it flowed out. And it has of course changed and evolved. And but it was always a rhyming book, and it was always something, and it was sort of always like an off rhyme. Like I didn't mind it being funky, and like I break the fourth wall, and I just it just kind of came out. And there's choices I made that I don't like, I can't necessarily rationalize. They just felt right. And a big part of the book is representation and showing the vastness and making like of the different people that live on this planet and just different cultures, and really honoring those, and just having everyone feel represented in it, in addition to everyone's zodiac sign being represented, showing the world as it is, this beautiful melting pot microcosm, and just really having everyone in the book, or everyone that reads the book, feel like, oh, I can see myself in this, or this, little crab is, I mean, I guess I do refer to him as a him, but I mean, I can't remember the crabs that changed their gender, but like really it could be any race, any culture, it's just, it could be any gender really. I mean, um, I guess I wanted to make it as accessible to every type of kid and every person that reads it. So that was a big focal point. So yeah, 2013, and then in 2019, like it was actually 2017, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna self-publish this. I had the manuscript ready, and I was trying to find a traditional publisher, and I was like, no, in order to do this the exact way I want to do it, I have to like go my own route. And so it took a while with just, my illustrator is a really busy person, and just scheduling, timing, and just reworking and rewriting the drafts. And then it definitely took longer than I had hoped, but you kind of have to embrace that journey. I'm sure, like you as an author of a book, you just it again, divine timing. It kind of comes together when it comes together, and it just took perseverance and follow through, and just giving up on this project and not giving up on this idea. And then, you know, I'm starting to write the next one. The next one is written, but again, like I do find it's constantly needing revision and rewrite, because it is this living thing. And even though the outline I think hasn't changed for the most part, I feel like the books, even like I written up to Gemini, like I feel like I know there's more to do there. There's more to like really convey the message in a way that I think is going to reach people, and connect with people. So
I love the level of care and passion that you've put into this project. Like it really comes through in the book. And as you describe it, it's inspiring to just see like I mean, that's a long time, to be focused on this project. That's
yeah.
awesome. You must be so excited to be giving birth to this now.
Yes, my 8-year-old child finally going off to school. Sorry I kept you in for so long. Cancer. To keep you at home, homeschool you. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is like, it is surreal, and also like, wow, okay, finally. But like it is so exciting, and it's so exciting to share it with people. I'm like sharing it
Yeah.
with you, and your interest in it, and just everyone's encouragement, interest in it, and just sharing it with as many people as possible. And that's kind of my goal in the first stage of launching the book, is just to get it out to people and share it. And it's really heartening and feels really great to hear that it's meaningful for people, and that they connect with it, and that means the world to me. That's why I wrote the book. So
I think you're gonna get, as people like are buying it and reading it, you're gonna get a lot of really positive feedback. I mean, yeah, my kids, like we just, read it like once, but I'm excited to,
I can't wait to get you the I will be sending you a hard copy.
yes,
Like,
I can't wait to get it.
yeah, because I sent you the digital, and I am gonna do a digital release as well. But yeah, I definitely feel like there's something. Originally, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make it digital, but there is something again about the like tangible, like tactile connection you have with the book, and just sharing
Oh,
it that way. So
yeah,
I can't wait to get
absolutely.
you to bring you the hardcover edition.
It's especially for children because they'll spend time with it without you there. And like that ability for them to sort of like look through it and read it themselves, or even just look at the images, depending on their age, that's a really powerful experience for them. And I think that's going to help them, develop their own emotional language and understanding of themselves or their siblings or their friends. So, yeah, it's really exciting. And I was wondering if you might have some advice for parents of cancer children,
Okay.
basically.
I guess first, like you being a parent of a cancer child, I probably would definitely defer to you first. I am not a parent, but as a cancer child, or as someone that was a cancer child, and and Dominique, if you read the first book at the end, does a great job of kind of listing out suggestions and tips for working with your cancer child. I think all of those are spot on. I think understanding the nature of the moon and the nature of their moods. And I think when people think moods and moodiness, they think like, okay, cranky. They don't think about, it can be like hysterically laughing. It can be go from jovial to like pensive to all the, I mean, I'm sure you like, you recognize that with your daughter who's a cancer. And I think that understanding that moods, sometimes you just have to let the moods play out, and they may confound you. And it's just, as a water sign, as a cancer, you're constantly feeling things that are within and outside of you, and you can't always, especially as a child, put a name to it or understand why you're feeling some way. And I think that there's so much like interesting like sensory processing. Cancers being so connected to their past, they can just suddenly like a past event or past feeling will show up, and will will throw it off, and they have to just feel through it. And I think just giving kids the space to go through their feelings, and even if it's confusing, they'll always come back. I think when cancers have a private space that they can just process their emotions with, or through, or just have a safe space where they can just let their feelings roll through, and just understanding that moods and moodiness isn't necessarily like, well, why aren't they always happy, or like, why are they happy and then all of a sudden they're not. It's really like a flow and spectrum, like a wave. And so, you know I think it's the great thing about Cancer energy is it shows us the full spectrum of our emotions, and maybe they don't necessarily on the outside make sense at first. Like, you can't comprehend, like, why would they, what triggered them to go from this mood to that mood. But understanding that, like, that's how emotions are. They pick up on things that are not in front of us. They pick up on subtext. They pick up on emotions, on like feelings, on vibration. They pick up on things that are not always apparent to, or evident to, a parent or a person. And I think that they help us recognize our own emotions. And so many people, they don't honor or recognize their emotions, and then they manifests in different, sometimes harmful ways. And I think that just kind of honoring their moods, I guess, and showing, and just letting kids run through it. I'm not saying like if they're freaking out, it's like, yes, you can't just be like, they're letting them run through their mood. They're throwing like water balloons at the male person, like that's their mood. But like it's more just, they can't always, they may not even understand why they're feeling a certain way. And I think after they've experienced the emotion, talking to them about their emotions, I think cancers have so many feelings and emotions, and as a kid it's sometimes really hard to talk about that. And cancers, having kind of a circuitous way about them, they aren't always the most direct, and they're very kind of indirect or oblique about how they um, kind of express their feelings. And just listening, just giving them space to listen, and they'll show you their emotions through creative expression, through acting stuff out, drawing, whatever it is. But it's sometimes they can't access it directly or pinpoint exactly what they're feeling. And I think just giving them space to go through their emotions, and then giving them space to describe what they're feeling.
I love that. I can so relate as a mom of it. And it's nice to hear from the perspective of someone who is a cancer, and was a cancer child. But with my daughter, I can definitely, that connection to the past and like emotions coming up that are from something that happened before is so strong with her. And it's so different. Like, I'm so much fire and air. So
Yeah.
I'm more like it burns and it's gone,
Yeah.
or it flows away. And so it's been really good for me, I think, in my own growth too, to be working with her through her emotions. But she'll suddenly like have a memory of, in kindergarten on the playground, a kid was mean to me and it was
Yep.
so bad, mom. And then it's like
and,
that.
and it's like they're reliving it for the first time. It's so vivid, and it's so it's felt so strongly that, yeah, it feels completely fresh.
Yeah. And it's really powerful, and it's beautiful too, because it's like, wow, she's so connected, and it makes her very empathetic. And I love that about her. She knows how, like, she's such a, well, another like cancer thing, being such a nurturer. It's like with her siblings, she's so like little mom. It's so cute. And she really understands like where they're coming from. Like if Luna, the Leo child, is upset and like actually, Hope like has an understanding of what that means and how to like nurture her. And it's just so natural to her. It's really cool. Yeah.
I think that's great. That's adorable. Her name's Hope. I love that. But that with Hope, that you kind of highlight her empathy, and let her, like, the way you let her know like how great her empathy is, and the ability, like how much of a gift it is that she can like pick up on people's feelings and moods and be able to address them in a way that's sensitive to their emotional needs at the moment. I think that's really cool. I wish I had very loving, nurturing parents, but I feel like empathy was something that wasn't. It's much more ingrained in kids now, or at least as a positive thing to express. But I think when I was growing up, I didn't. I felt like expressing my natural, nurturing, empathetic nature was not always well received, especially like amongst like my guy friends. And so it's so good to see that now, like really
Oh,
extolled and highlighted and praised.
sorry, I'm having a little child.
Oh,
Here, say hi real quick, and then Luna, you gotta go, okay?
hi.
This is the Leo.
Is this the Leo? Yes, rocking the yellow. I love it.
Okay, honey. And the little kids, it's just like
They're constantly like highlighting like lessons for the next, but they're just like, and did you know this about Leo kids? No,
yeah.
I think that's amazing. I mean, honestly, it's being a parent is such an amazing experience from what my perception of it. I just think that's so like it's cool to just see you interact with your kids and just to know like you're utilizing astrology in your parenting and just yeah, your kids are clearly adorable. They're in the book, right? They're
Yeah,
pictures.
did I put I think I put a picture of them like at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and I love, well, one, I love that you're actually not a parent and you did this. That's really kind of cool because sometimes people are wondering like how does the parenting astrology stuff, how does it mean something to me if I'm not a parent? And I think that the way that you're describing it is kind of the perfect answer to that I haven't even had yet, but it's about this like visualizing and understanding your inner child. Like we all have our inner children to work with, and we spend a lot of time in therapy often doing that.
Yeah, healing those wounds. Yeah.
And it's so cool because it's like showing us it's not only just for children, but it's for adults as a way of understanding. And I think this is where we make astrology accessible to more people. Not everyone's into this super heady, complex, mathematical sort of philosophical language of
Mhm.
astrology. And when we can break it down to its like most sort of basic and visual story, it becomes such a powerful tool for us to like really grow in our understanding of it. So I love that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I agree. And that's what I feel like when I read your book too. It's a very visual book. It offers depth, but it is done so visually that you can understand the deeper points and meanings that you're getting at in the book.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And I also wanted to say, as you were talking about your experience as a cancer child, and I'm wondering if you think some of the reasons why maybe your nurturing side was harder to embrace is probably because of being a male. Do you think that like that stereotype, I think, is something that is still a lot of parents have to sort of work through, like letting your boy cancer children express their emotions and recognizing that as a strength.
Yeah, yeah. I think that from a societal perspective, we're more set up to do that now. But that was like a challenge for me, and I think that was a side I felt like I had to kind of hide or play down quite a lot. Um, and it just, yeah, I think we value certain traits and the presentation of certain traits on a whole, it seems like more. And kids start to pick up on that. The moment a kid feels ostracized for expressing their true nature, I think they seize up and they're like, okay, I gotta like that. When I do that, it elicits this reaction, and that made me feel not great. So maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. I think that it is a great, like as you mentioned, like parents can really harness all aspects of their child's personality, and like understanding their zodiac sign is one way to do that. It's one way to understand like, okay, these traits may not always be understood by your peers, but they're still really important, and they're still like, it's still a really big gift, and you don't need to hide those. And I think that luckily I feel like we're in a more inclusive, understanding world than in the like 80s 90s. So it just I'm hopeful that you know a lot of like not just the traits that seem to mesh up with our like American culture, society, our highlighted. And funny, like America is a Cancer, like,
Oh yeah.
but it is like it's interesting how we just the expression of certain zodiacal traits aren't always maybe prioritized or favored or seem to be. At least this was my own experience. I don't want to like project that onto like today or even other decades, but it just my experience. I there's a lot of my Cancer traits I felt like I had to put on the back burner, and you know couldn't always express how much like I cared about my friends, or how much how much everyone meant to me, or how if someone became a close friend they felt like a family member. And just like, okay, that's weird, like like so. And having, I guess, an Aries rising, Aries moon, I kind of would like default to that a lot, like, okay, you take over, because they're not getting this Cancer sun energy. So yeah. But
Yeah, I love that. And I do hope that that's the world we're creating. And it'll be amazing to see as this sort of evolves. And I hope like it gets into education too, this deeper understanding of people's identities and what that means for how we can help them learn and help them learn to express themselves. Because I really see that as another way that like parenting astrology or children astrology can really like expand our ideas of what's a child-based learning program look like. How do you embrace their strengths and work with
integrating astrology into that program would be huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I also, do you have any tidbits about the current astrology that you want to share with people?
Oh, well, just know, I guess, like when I look at this year, there's so much like Saturn Uranus energy. It is a very different, especially now that we're in the astrological new year, which is to me when like we really get the flavor of the year. And I I do think there is a lot more hope and optimism in this year. At the same time, with Saturn Uranus, there are going to be things that I think will shake us. And I mean, the events of last week and this week, there are examples. And I think that we are, the more I think open we are to sudden changes and to pivots, and to uh, the way the world is shaping up with Saturn and Aquarius, with a lot of energy in Aquarius, the way the future is being built and our resistance to it, are like just maybe, I don't know, it's weird. It's with Uranus there, it's like where I feel like with Uranus and Taurus squaring a lot of this energy in a sign-based square and then in exact configurations, there is this like we're trying to liberate ourselves away from tech. And so like tech is completely taking in, or taking, not taking over, but it is like everything is kind of, the future grid is being like built, and it is a technology based future, or like digitized future where we're all connected. But maybe even though we have so many ways and avenues to connect, we feel somewhat less connected. And I think like with a lot of with Uranus and Taurus, I think we're seeking liberation through tactile experiences, through getting out in nature, through connecting to like a more simplistic, hands-on experience. Yet at the same time, our reality is becoming just more digitized and more like, I guess, technologically in the sense of like the way we're connecting, and we can connect to more people. And I think maybe the only thing is like that is that connection always satisfying? Would is like what my feeling is. So I just think with Saturn and Uranus, I feel like they kind of dominate this year, and Jupiter being in Aquarius as well, as I think a really, having Jupiter with Saturn in its first year there, Saturn's first year in Aquarius, is a really nice transitional point. I think when Jupiter goes into Pisces, it's like, yeah, I'll be back, boss. I'll be back in like 5 minutes, and then it like goes off to the vacation home, to its ruler, its second home essentially. And so I think that will be a really positive time. I do think there'll be a lot of like over optimistic viewpoints of like everything is great, everything's okay. And then I think when Saturn or when Jupiter regresses back into Aquarius, it's like maybe, oh wait, there's still more to deal with. So I do think that everyone is seeking a big shift from 2020, and there is a shift, but I do think that there is just things we can't possibly foresee. When I look at the eclipse in the summer, and then right after we have the Saturn Uranus square exact, I think on the 14th. I just things like that are like, oh, what are we missing? Like, what are we not going to see that had we had seen maybe could have prevented something? I don't know. It's just it's a more, I think, exciting year. And anytime you have Uranus involved, there is excitement. There is like this like what's going to happen energy, but it is just still like understanding that there's a lot of integration happening with how we're entering into the future. And I think people taking care of their mental health and feeling connected and feeling like getting out in nature, getting out on earth, and just feeling, you know, connected to themselves and people, and really um, not not feeling trapped in technology, I guess, not feeling confined or restricted to just being like on the internet or just being like able to connect through Zoom. I think that's good. That's a big theme. And I just think, again, just unforeseen events may occur. But overall, it's not the one note, like ominous tones of 2020, whereas this Pluto is like, yeah, I own this year. Like this is, you know, and of course, Pluto is still in Capricorn, and it's gonna, like, according to the US Sibley chart, you know, it's getting closer and closer to having an exact Pluto return. I don't think it'll happen to 2023 or 2022, but it's, you know, there's a lot of stuff I think still with this country, and we're exposing a lot of stuff, a lot of systematic problems that need to be corrected. And I think that there is more agency to address and correct those problems and not mask them or sweep them under the rug, or like, you know, put nice smelling essential oils on them to make them seem like they're not as insidious as they are. I just think that that work is still happening, and we're really, this is like constructing the future. Although this is, I mean, this is not like the age of Aquarius as regarding to the precession of the equinox. Like, I don't think it's that, but it is an area, a time where there's so much Aquarius energy, and, you know, eventually Pluto will be there in 2024. So it's going to continue. Like, the future is being built and the future is being established. The future, as far as like our futuristic living or innovation and lifestyle, is being developed.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a lot. That was great.
Sorry,
So much in there to unpack. But that was, yeah, I mean, we can really feel that Aquarius Taurus, you know, tension right now. My like
the main dominating theme.
yeah, it's so huge. And I think, you know, my hopeful wish for this is like, you know, maybe we're going to see, like, we're going to have to come up with solutions to issues like climate change and the destabilizing of our financial markets. And by like new technology and new scientific advances, we may have incredible breakthroughs. Like, that's what I'm really hoping for.
Yep.
And I kind of dig Aquarius energy a little bit, and I also like technology. So I guess for me, I'm not like as scared of a you know, a little bit more of the tech stuff. I mean, I'm Saturn and Aquarius is a little much, but I do have these hopes that like we can, like, our children now, like the way they're engaging with tech is so different than what we did as children. I mean, like, they can, with VR, like, sculpt things. There's this new, like Minecraft, they're creating a lot more than we were able to. And I think that sort of creative relationship with tech might lead to like all sorts of new forms of technology.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's really cool. That's a great point. Like, the accessibility to tech that the Saturn, Jupiter, and Aquarius, and the innovation and making it so mainstream, and that kids are picking up, like, they're not having to like go through like, oh, I learned this and I can learn this. They're picking up where technology is now, and they're growing with it. And that is a great, yeah, I do think that is a really amazing component of all this Aquarius energy, is having the accessibility of these amazing tools. And like you mentioned, like your hope, and like that is really Aquarian energy, is that humanitarian hope that we all rise the tide together, and that like more people will be able to improve their lives and to progress, you know, in their existence, and that there is more accessible innovation to more people. And I agree. That's a really good point, and that's, I think, a really good thing to focus on. And I do love, again, like having Jupiter and Saturn here in Aquarius. You're right. It is really a chance for us to address these issues that are going to determine the quality of our future. And it gives us, in the past, since the past 4 years, you know, our, like my biggest hope of like, okay, that can actually start to, like, real substantial policies can start to actually take shape and to, you know, be implemented. So yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. And I think like this new stuff, like your book, for example, like these ways that children are getting exposed to a more in-depth, like emotional language and the full zodiac wheel of understanding, if that becomes part of our children's language, and then they incorporate that into the virtual, I don't know, networks or whatever, who knows like what is going to come. And that's the exciting part. Now, I mean, I am a little bit scared of like massive destabilization and other things that may come up through all this, but
You
there
know, I'm
is,
glad. Yeah, I'm glad you're focusing on like, I think the positive, because I think that far outweighs. I apologize. Sometimes I do like, I'm like I kind of not focus on the negative, but I think that's a really good point you made. Just, you know, that for astrology, Aquarius and astrology, I mean, that's, they go hand in hand. I think making astrology, integrating astrology into our children's lives, this energy is a great opportunity for that.
it totally is. I think it's like right on point. Like the work you're doing, the work we're connecting over, we met on Instagram and now we're like Zooming. It's so
Yes,
cool.
the connectivity of Aquarius, so the connection opportunities that this energy provides is amazing, and that's like everyone can get connected to everyone, and that it's like dissolving a lot of the barriers to, like, oh, I could never talk to this person before, I could, you know. And so yeah, I think that is a huge boost and a huge positive thing that's happening with these transits.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's, I mean, and I think probably because I'm a parent and also I'm a Sagittarius. So like I try to see the cheery side, but it helps me to focus on that stuff. I'm like, okay, there's got to be something good coming from, especially last year. I mean, everyone last year was a lot. So going forward, I'm like trying to be very hopeful. And I think being active in like what we're doing and really taking this time to like create and try to innovate is such a good way to work with the energy that's happening.
Yes, I absolutely like what you just said about, you know, you like how to take advantage of this time, and just it's amazing we have like hopeful people like you. Like that's why the world needs Sagittarius. It needs people to see a brighter future. It needs people to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we need to understand like there are opportunities in the darkness, and there are opportunities that difficult times um, offer us. And I think that's, I love that. I love that perspective that you're sharing. And yeah,
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, this has been really fun. Like yeah, we've gone on for like almost an hour. I should probably like get to the kids.
yeah, I do not want to have you neglect your family. Yeah, it's really awesome to connect with you. Like having looked at your book first and just seeing you on Instagram and your newsletters, you know, I got a sense. But it's really cool to like meet you in this way and connect with you and just have this conversation. And I appreciate you so much, like, you know, giving me the space to talk and for us to
Oh,
share and connect.
yeah, I appreciate it for you too. They're like, this is great for me. This and like connecting, and that's been the hard thing. I mean, like with the transits, like not being able to get out there and connect in person with as many people as I'd like to. So this is just like, it's so good. It feeds my soul. It's your book is feeding my children's soul. It's it's all
Thank
it's
you.
very exciting.
Megan, that's really, thank you. It's really sweet. I agree. And I can't praise your book enough, and your vision and mission to really make parenting or astrological parenting a thing and make it really accessible and just connect adults and kids to it in a way that together they can grow and learn on the same page. It's really, it's as you said, it's like what I think, where I think astrology is headed, and I think it's only going to get further integrated into our society and into education. And it's just these tools such as your book are really just the like beginning marking points of that evolution of astrology and the effects it will have and the impact it will have.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been great. I look forward to connecting with you more, and
Yes.
especially as the next books are released, and who knows what other ideas we might come up with. But
Yeah.
thank you again, and everyone, make sure to go get the book. They can. Oh yeah, and so what's your website name again?
Yes, it's littlecrabastrology.com. The book is available on Amazon in a paperback and hardcover version. And they can always go to my website. There's more information there. Um, and they can also contact me through
Awesome.
there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. Also, if anyone wants to find out more of my stuff, it's mysticmegan.com.
I love your newsletter. It's very, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And your Instagram, and just, yes,
Yeah.
highly recommend
So
it.
totally, I'm on Instagram. I'm at Mystic Megan. So just yeah, find me, reach out. I'd love to do readings, connect, check out my book, whatever, and everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
I'm at Little Crab Astrology on Instagram, and yeah.
cool.